Our publication said evening, so I will still give you our evening service. If you'll join me on page 5, please rise for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. You may be seated. Umavir yom uviu v'layla umavdil ben yom uven layla Adonai tzvaot shemo El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ari v'ravim. Continue silently on the top of page 6 with Ahavat Olam. Let's repeat. V'avatcha tasir mimenu leolamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael. Please rise at the bottom of page 6 for the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malto Le'olam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meotecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha ve'shinantam levanecha ve'dibarta bam V'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam lehot al yadecha v'hayu letotofot bein einecha u'chetavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. We continue quietly on to page 7. למען תסגרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. You be seated. We continue on quietly onto page 8 in the language of your choice. God's children beheld the power of the divine. They praised and acknowledged God's name, willingly accepting God's rule. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef ele, malchutecha rahuvanecha bokei ayam lifnei Moshe, zeli anu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed ve'ne'emar ki fa'ada Adonai et Yaakov ugialohu me'ad chazak mimenu baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. Join me responsively on page 9 in the English. Allow us, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully and to awaken again to life, our sovereign.
Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel, and save us for the sake of your name.
Shield us, remove from us enemies and pestilence, sword, salvation, starvation, sorrow, and remove the evil forces that surround us.
Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you, God, preserve and deliver us. You are sovereign, merciful, and compassionate.
Ensure our going and coming for life and peace, now and forever.
May you spread over us your canopy of peace.
Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Join at the top of page 10. Sound the shofar on our feast day, on the new moon when it is hidden, for it is Israel's law, a decree of the God of Jacob. Tiku b'chodesh shofar b'keseh leyom chageinu, ki chok leYisrael hu mishpat leElohei Yaakov. Please rise for the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah ve'alma divrach yurtei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei techol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imeru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ha'almei Amaya Yitbarach Yitbarach Ve'yishtabach Ve'yitbar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh Ve'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Dekudesha Barichu Le'ela Le'ela Mikol Birchata Ve'shirata Tushbachata v'nechamata damiran elma v'yimeru. Amen. We remain standing as we continue with the silent Amidah. I'll open the ark in a moment to allow us moments of silent prayer from the pages. Tracy can come open it for me. Thank you. As we take our moments on pages 11 through 15, if we are using the words of tradition or the words of our own hearts, reflect on what we are letting go from the past year, what blessings from the past year we're holding on to, and what we want to bring into this new world to create anew in the coming year. Silent Amidah, page 11 through 15. May we and the entire house of Israel be called to mind and inscribed for life, blessing, sustenance, and peace in the book of life. B'sefer chaim berecha v'shalom u'farnasa tova nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל לחיים טובים ולשלום ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום. Close the ark. You may be seated on page 19. So thank you to Tracy for coming up and helping that. As we continue with the Kaddish Shalem on page 19. You may be seated. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemeh rabbah ve'alma divrach yiruteh ve'amliach malchuteh v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayet echol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imeru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam u'l'olmei Almaya yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrumam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitadeh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha berichu le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran me'alma ve'imeru amen. Titkabal tzorhon uvautehon dechol Yisrael kodam avuhon divishmaya ve'imeru amen. Yehi shlama rabbe min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom mimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru amen. Just say this year, I see I'm supposed to give a little drash, a little Torah here. Just say this year, on Rosh Hashanah, I'm actually thinking of a very different Rosh Hashanah this year today. In the Mishnah, the earliest rabbinic writings after the destruction of the temple, they say there are 4 Rosh Hashanahs every year. There's this one, there's one for the harvest, there's one for the animals, and then there's one that many of us may be familiar with, which is Tu B'Shvat. And Tu B'Shvat, meaning the 15th of Shvat, which usually takes place sometime in late January to mid-February, somewhere in that zone as compared to the Gregorian calendar. I noticed this past year, as only my personal second experience of a non-California winter, there was something very special about celebrating the rebirth of trees and of plants and of spring at the end of January when the ground was still covered in snow, when we couldn't tell that it was there yet, because there was a reminder that it was coming. We couldn't see it yet, but spring is coming. We celebrate, for us in this part of the world, we celebrate Tu B'Shvat and the coming of spring and the joy of blossoms before we actually get to see them yet. I think so much of this year we've had opportunities to see spring blossom and have it feel a little bit pulled back, maybe covered in snow again a little bit. And I'll speak more on this tomorrow morning, but I find myself tonight thinking that this Rosh Hashanah is parallel to one of the other Rosh Hashanah, Roshei Hashanah, one of the other heads of the year, of Tu B'Shvat. That right now, if we're feeling a little bit constrained, if we're feeling a little bit like we don't see all of the blossoms that we were hoping to see today, I don't see hardly anyone here. I see 3 of you. I'm glad I can see some faces, but not so many. It's not because they're not there. I know you're there on the other side of that camera. I was told we have a record number for this particular service logging in. So I know you're there. And you being there is the seeds that are hanging out under the ground, under the snow, waiting to burst forth. To me, it's a little message of hope and a reminder that we'll get there. And I'll say more on it tomorrow morning, but as we enter the second day, and say, we'll keep growing. We might not be able to see all of it yet, but we are growing, and I have hope for this coming year. And so I hope we not only have a Shana Tova U'Metuka, good year and a sweet year, but that we also have one of growth. So as we continue our service, I don't have a grape juice to do Kiddush, so I'll encourage you to do Kiddush with your dinner at home tonight. So please rise and join me in the Aleinu on page 25. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol lateit gedula leotzer bereshit shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot velo samanu kemishbechot ha'adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem vegor aleinu kechol hamonam ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא מלך השמיים ויוסף. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד. The departed, whom we remember in just a moment, have entered into the peace of life eternal. They live on in earth in the acts of goodness they performed and in the hearts of those who cherish their memory. May the bounty of their lives endure among us in loving benediction. I invite all who are observing a yard site, who are in mourning, or all for whom it is your custom to do so, to rise with me on page 26 for the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Ve'alma divrach hirutei ve'amlich malchutei. B'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulmei almaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh ve'yitadar ve'yitaleh ve'yitalal shemei dekudesha berichu. Le'ela le'ela mikol birchata ve'shirata tush bechata ve'nechemata da'amiran be'alma ve'imru amen. Yehe shlama Rabbah min shemaya ve'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. You may be seated and take a look at Psalm 27 quietly on page 27. Join me in the concluding lines at the red outlined triangle on the bottom of the page. Lule hemanti lirot betuv Adonai ve'eretz chaim kaveh el Adonai kaveh el Adonai, Kavel Adonai, Kavel Adonai. If only I could trust that I would see God's goodness in the land of the living. Place your hope in Adonai. Be strong, take courage, and place your hope in Adonai. We'll close on page 28 with Yigdal. Yigdal Elohim chai ve'yishtabach nimsa ve'heinet el mitziuto echad ve'en yachid ke'yichudo ne'elam ve'gam hen sof le'achduto en lo demut haguf eino guf lo naroch elav kedushato kadmon lechol davar asher nivra rishon ve'en reshit lereshito Metim Yechael berov chasto Baruch Adeyan Shem Tehilato Metim Yechael berov chasto Baruch Adeyan Shem Tehilato. Before we close, we share the words of Martin Buber. The purpose of creation is not division nor separation. The purpose of the human race is not to struggle to the death between classes, between nations. Humanity is meant to become a single body. Our purpose is the great upbuilding of unity and peace. And when all nations are bound together in one association, living in justice and righteousness, they atone for each other. They build each other up into a better and stronger new year. Leshana tova tikatevu, Leshana tova tikatevu, tikatevu, tikatevu. Shana Tova. Thank you so much to Sid for leading our Mincha service. I apologize for the confusion in getting us going. Thank you so much to Sid Mishkin for our Mincha service. And thank you all for joining us for both Mincha and for Mariv. Shana Tova. We'll look forward to seeing you back here on the live stream beginning at 9:30 tomorrow morning for our second day service. Shana Tova.